guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing really well today. So today's video is going to be kind of like a mini thrift flip video. I recently got a couple of different sweaters from Goodwill and I wanted to do a couple of alterations to them to make them a little bit more suitable for what I was looking for. So I will be working with two different sweaters today. I have this cream one and this green one, and let me show you what the alterations look like. So I showed this sweater in a recent thrift haul and I ended up swapping out the buttons for these gold buttons, which I think is such an easy change to do to make something a little bit different, and I love how this turned out. So a really easy alteration on this one. And then I had been wanting to find a kind of oversized sweater vest. I've been seeing these a lot online lately and I think they're really cute, but something that is probably pretty trendy, so I didn't want to spend a lot of money on it. So I was looking for a sweater that I could turn into a sweater vest, and I found one that worked really well for this, and I made this green sweater vest, which I think is such a beautiful color, and I'm enjoying playing around with styling this one. So let me go ahead and show you guys how I made these, and then after I do that, I have some vintage pieces that I recently have bought that I wanted to show you as well in this video, so that will be after the sewing. So let's start out with the cream colored sweater first, and you can see the original had these navy buttons on the shoulder. I thought it would look a lot more classic and high quality if it had gold buttons, so I'm going to swap the buttons out for some gold buttons today. So the first thing I'm going to do is just remove the original buttons. This is a very straightforward, simple process. All I'm going to do is cut the thread that's holding the buttons onto the sweater and remove the thread, being careful not to cut any of the sweater itself. Then I'll just put these buttons in my button stash. I found exactly 6 of these gold buttons in my button stash, so I thought that was so perfect. So that's what I'm using for this project today. And as a general rule, if you want to swap out the buttons on a piece of clothing, just make sure that the buttons that you choose are about the same size as the original so that they will work with the existing buttonholes. So now all that's left to do here is to sew on all of the new buttons. So I'm going to leave in a real-time clip of sewing on one of the buttons, just in case you're curious to see how I do it in a little bit more detail. I'm starting out here with one foundation stitch just to kind of lock my thread in place, and then I will move on to sewing the button on. For a little bit of extra security, I'm just going to wrap my thread around the button a couple of times and then move my needle to the back of the sweater. From here, I'm going to pick up just a little bit of the fabric and wrap my thread around my needle 2 times. Then I'll pull the needle through the thread. This creates a nice strong knot. Finally, I'm going to take the 2 tails of my thread and knot them together before trimming them, and this will just make sure that this button is not going anywhere. So you can see in that real-time clip, it took me about 1 minute to sew a button on, which means this entire thrift flip took around 6 minutes, so definitely a very quick change to make to a garment. So here is how the sweater turned out. It's definitely not a big change, but I think that these buttons do make a really big difference to how the sweater looks, and I definitely like it a lot better this way, so I'm really happy with how it turned out. So next, let's turn this green sweater into a sweater vest. I love the color of this sweater, and I also thought it had a nice shape and neckline for turning into a sweater vest. So let me show you how I did that. So when I was looking for a sweater to turn into a vest, I wanted to make sure that it had ribbing that I could use to create a band on the sleeves, and this was perfect because the sleeves are entirely ribbing. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut the sleeves off, and I am cutting on the outside of the seam where the sleeve is joined to the sweater to make sure this doesn't unravel, and I'll trim that away later. Next, I'm going to use the ribbing from the sleeves to cut out a band for the armholes, and this is just going to give it more of a polished look. So I'm going to take my ribbing from my armholes and cut a piece that's about 2 inches wide. You can make this however wide you want it to be, just making sure that you account for folding this piece in half and also having a seam allowance. So I've just folded this in half here so I can get a bit of an idea of how it will look, and I thought this width worked really, really well. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the same piece from the other sleeve. This sweater definitely has a very boxy shape, and the shoulders extend quite far over my shoulders, so it almost looks like it's short-sleeved when it's done. If I wanted it to look a little bit more like it was completely sleeveless, I could have trimmed those armholes up further, so that's just a thought if you are looking to make one that looks like it has more of a sleeveless look. So the first thing I'm going to do here is fold my little armhole bands in half, and then I'm going to go ahead and start pinning this to the armhole. So I'm just going to match up the original seam from the sleeve with the side seam on the sweater to keep things centered here, and I am matching the raw edges together. Then I'll just pin this on all the way around. Now I am leaving a little bit of an overhang from the sweater so that I can trim away that seam that I left in place when I cut the sleeve off later. So there's about a 1/2 inch of an overhang here. When I'm working with ribbing like this, I like to make sure that the ribbing piece is a little bit smaller than whatever I'm attaching it to and stretch it to fit. I find that makes it look a little bit more professional when it's done. So mine is a little bit smaller than the armhole here, and I will just stretch it when I get to the sewing machine. So now all I'm going to do is take this over to my sewing machine and use a zigzag stitch to attach this. I'm going to let my zigzag stitch overlap over the edge of the ribbing, and then when I'm done sewing it on, I'll trim away any of the excess fabric. Make sure that you sew through all layers here, and you can double check once you're done to make sure that all of the layers got caught in the stitching. So now all I'm going to do is take my scissors and trim away this excess fabric here. I'm going to cut right up to the stitching, but not cut the stitching itself, so that this is as close to the stitching as possible. Then I'm just going to give it a quick press and do the same thing on the other side, and this vest was done. I thought this was such an easy, quick little thrift flip to do, and I definitely like to try it with a few other styles. I'm excited to have this piece to play around with in my wardrobe with something that's a little bit different for me, and it's a really fun piece to style. So both of these alterations were really quick and easy to do, and I really enjoyed them. So I hope that might have given you some ideas for how you can change up some pieces in your wardrobe with just a simple change of the buttons or something like that. It was really fun to work on. And now moving on to some vintage pieces that I have picked up recently. So recently I was scrolling on Instagram and I got an ad for a brand called Imparfait, which is a French vintage clothing website. And I was sucked in by the ad and went over to the website and found a few pieces that I'm really excited about. So let me show them to you. So here's the box with everything I got, and I'm really excited about these pieces. One of the things that I liked about this website was that everything seems to be really curated into different categories. So it's pretty easy to navigate and kind of niche in what they offer. So it really reminded me of companies like Cezanne and Rouge with the different styles that they had available. So let me show you what I got. First up is this cardigan with this adorable Peter Pan collar and these kind of pearlized gold buttons up the front, which I think is so, so cute. I thought this would be perfect for spring because it's a lace knit, so a little bit lighter, but just so pretty and unique. I was really excited about this one, and everything I got was in really good condition as well, so definitely a really pretty piece. Also, the package had a little lavender sachet inside, which I think is just such a nice detail, so I had to show you guys that. Then next up, I got this sage green gingham midi skirt, which I think is so pretty. It's a really nice lightweight fabric. I think this might be a linen blend. It has pockets and buttons up the front. And then in the back, it has a slit, which I thought was kind of a unique detail. I love the color on this, and I think this will be so cute for summer with a white top and sandals. So I'm really excited to wear this one. And then last but certainly not least is this adorable straw bag with floral stitching on the front. I think this is so, so cute. I was so excited to find this. Rouge has a lot of very similar bags on their website that are quite expensive, so this was definitely a lot more affordable. And I just think it's adorable and will go with so many summer outfits. And I actually think all three of these pieces will look really good together, so I'm excited to style them, and I will be sure to include try-on clips here so you can see them. But I just think this bag is so adorable. So that's everything that I ordered from Imparfait, and I'm definitely really happy with all of it. So it was a good Instagram ad, I guess, to get sucked in by. So I just thought I'd share in case any of you guys were interested. But thank you so much for watching this kind of hodgepodge video today. I will be back with a new sewing project video on Saturday, which I'm really excited about. It's a dress project that I think you guys will really enjoy seeing. So that will be coming soon. But thank you guys so much for watching and spending your time here on my channel today. If you're not subscribed and you would like to be subscribed, you can do that now by clicking the red button down below to stay tuned for future videos. And if you would like to keep up with me outside of YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram are the two best places to do that. So I will have both of those linked down below in case you're interested. But thank you again for hanging out here today, and I will talk to you in my next video. Bye!